All right. Today is February 6th, 2024. This is the AI Agents Engineering Sync. Mark, you got the first item.
Yeah, which is basically for your interest. So both merge requests about this GitLab do chat component adjustments have been merged, which is like a blocker for everything we're building on the show page for the agents. And so up for me next is, well, basically taking Eduardo's merge request and trying to put together a chat, setting everything up, because from what Eduardo said, it took a while to set everything up. So that's probably my task for the week and to play with it.
Cool. All right. My items next. I've got the merge request to move the agents into the view router that's in review. There's a few tests that are failing, so I got to clean that up. But I think that should get through pretty quickly this week, and then onto the edit functionality. So changing an agent like we talked about last week. That'll be a lot easier now that everything's into the view router. So
yeah, you're
yeah,
not gonna do any. It's gonna be.
Go ahead.
I know you're gonna need a graphical. Otherwise, like you're gonna need some backend changes, right? Because you need a graphical input. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't expect too much trouble there. So
You
I'll
can
just keep moving with
reuse.
that.
Maybe you could take the form out of create and make a component where you can pass up potential like a model, an agent version, and then if it is, then it prefills with everything, and then you have the same component on both sides, like you have a single form. That could be something.
Yeah, I think that would probably be we'll do the form component and then just a GraphQL endpoint for the update.
That should be enough.
Yeah, it'll be a lot smaller than the view router change. That's a big one.
But it looks nice. I took a look and it looks great. Like I want to do this in Model Register at some point because it really looks nice that you can move from page. You avoid a reload and everything, and it just looks better. It looks more polished.
Yeah, it's a lot quicker. Yeah.
I wonder if we could make this like a bootstrap thing. Like you could just bootstrap this whole, because this whole bootstrapping of a new application, of a new CRUD, took quite a while. Like could we somehow make the scaffold of Rails, but to GitLab with a Rails/Vue thing set up with the router and everything? It's just that will make incubation jobs so much easier. It would cut at least 5 or 6 MRs from the beginning of every project.
That's true. Yeah, I think we probably don't have it because a lot of the other areas don't need that type of like bootstrapping because they're not starting from scratch, but it seems like we keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, we do, and we will keep doing this.
Yeah. All right.
It'd also be nice if just like if you knew that like all the code was generated by the scaffolding and there were no further changes, that it could get like a easier green light from reviewers as well.
Yeah.
So, like reduce cycle time on both ends. Yeah. You could even just have it be like bot generated maybe so that people know that it hasn't been modified beyond that point.
Yeah, exactly. So can we make 1MR like the full boilerplate for a CRUD view backend and database, bot generated with 1MR? And then the next MRs are just like improving each one of these areas. Because a lot of the beginning for us, the problem was like I was working on some boilerplate and you were working on something else, but you needed my MR to get merged or something. There were this lineup of MRs. So that would be something pretty cool for incubation over time to have that kind of, that would boost the beginning of projects by a lot.
Yeah.
Just an idea. Just an idea. Just an idea who wants.
When we get some time.
One step further.
Never.
Make it an AI agent, right? Work on the prompt for that.
Okay.
Just inputs are a few database attributes, and it just does the rest from there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Marshall, you get the next item.
Yeah, so got a bit of pushback from the EMs on the AI impact MR. This was kind of what I identified as the next step to get some more data into the AI impact dashboard. The idea was like we still can't get to like the cycle time metric that was originally asked for, but this would allow us to like do some cool things like compare MR and commit rate to code suggestion utilization, and then like once we instrument Duo, like relative to Duo utilization as well. I synced up with Bartek on it, and we're gonna get some more air cover, I think, coming into this week on this stuff, which is good. And he's been working with David DeSanto to help push the PMs into getting more on board with this direction, so that we're not fighting upstream. But yeah, and I also pasted a link to the diagram that other David and I had been mapping out to sort of help convey the complexity of the problem. Basically, I think Bartek's ask is going to be that product get the data co-located in one place, no matter what that looks like, so that like if there are further asks on the AI impact stuff, that we will just be like implementing the surface level features and not having to do all the data plumbing behind the scenes to get this stuff to work. So yeah, not like I feel like I never have a good update on this one, but that's where we're at. So with that in mind, I'm hoping to get back onto here. I'll add this in 4 real quick. I'm hoping to like spend more time on Step Runner again this week. And specifically, I want to like get a POC around like the parsing of the function calls. So I had like a bit of a POC around generating the XML for function call definitions, but then we need to like parse the XML and reformat that back into Step Runner config. So that's the piece that I'm going to work on this week, and then like once that's done, either late this week or the following week, I want to get some more robust like evaluation techniques around that. Because like once we have an end-to-end pipeline where we can like ask for function calls to be like generated, parse those function calls back, and then pass them to Step Runner, we can see whether they're valid in an automated way, right? So that's the step that I'm trying to get to.
Any help did
Eduardo.
you need over there, or it's just info? You need something over there, Marshall, or it's just processed now?
What'd you say?
Did you need any assistance over there, or it's just a process now? Just go with things.
I mean, I think there's like multiple areas of opportunity for people to jump in, but I don't need any assistance on like the part that I'm. Are you talking about for the function calling at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think once I get the parser, like once I can parse the XML, like then we'll have something that we can collaborate on a little bit better. But that's just still like basic plumbing, you know what I mean? I haven't parsed XML in so long. I'm looking forward to finding a good XML parser and go. I feel like I thought those days were done. Why couldn't they have made Anthropic generate JSON instead?
Okay.
It'll never die.
So, yeah. For me, I finished the MR that was for using the chat to call the graphical endpoint. As we discussed last week, I moved everything to the chat endpoint itself, so I didn't create a new action for custom agents. I just reused everything and passed on. There's the MR touches a lot of files, but the change itself is not rather complex. Just it needs to pass down the agent through a lot of layers to get to the right places. So we started the review. I have a sync after this one with Gosha and whoever wants to join as well, just to explain the context to the reviewer, and get that out of the way. I don't expect a lot of pushback. In like I think the decision makes sense to use over there. It doesn't add too much complexity into the code base. I don't expect many problems around that. So that's it. There's not. I will give priority to merging that, but I don't know how long that will take. But once that is merged, Mark can already Mark could already rebase to that branch and work on top of it. But yeah, once that is merged, then you can open the MR to actually display the thing. So that's good. I think, Mark, something's gonna change since everything is done through GraphQL now. In the past, the prompt as a data attribute. So you're probably gonna need to fetch that from GraphQL itself rather than passing the prompt through the thing. So I expect that to be changed with the router in place. But both of them will be merged, like that will be merged before, so you can wait for that to happen. You can just use a fixed agent ID for now. You just need the ID, so it doesn't really matter to have the prompt there or not, because it's gonna the prompt itself is going to be fetched on the backend. So as long as you have the ID, it's fine.
Good.
Oh, and another thing that I wanted to put out, and something that Mark also mentioned before a while ago. This came up during this MR, but placeholders. So right now there are not many users. So there was some discussion before about variables and so on and so forth, but placeholders, not really variables. So not about changing the behavior of the prompt itself with external variables, but allowing the user, for example, to set where the previous conversation should go, or whether it should include previous history of conversation or not into the prompt itself. That kind of like control over the prompt will need placeholders. So there are a few already on the chat in place, and we need to decide if we're gonna follow that templating or we're gonna put a different templating. So right now, for example, let me open the MR itself. Is it this one?
Do you want to share a screen or just?
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen pretty quickly. Here. So for example, where's the file? Is incompletions prompt base. This, for example, is a template or a placeholder for adding the question that the user has. And it will, by default, add all of the previous questions before this. So it add previous history, system prompt, and then the question in this format, and then adds this thought thing so that to instruct the LLM to answer. But this means that we are injecting stuff, like we are still injecting stuff on top of like we're still kind of handling and altering the prompt of the user. But we need to, because otherwise we don't know how where they should put this stuff. So we will need to come up with some prompting, some prompt placeholders for users to have a little bit more control. Because ideally we wouldn't do anything here, right? We would just pass the prompt that the user has and potentially fill with the variables we have, like in the backend, like the conversation and everything. But I don't want to change their prompts in itself, right? I don't think that's ideal. If they want to have control over the quality of their prompts or whatever, this is fine for now. But later we want to have our own control, like we want to get full control to the prompt to them.
What does this what do these utility functions do? Like, what does the result of base prompt end up looking like here?
Base prompt, this is like 2 lines that I have. This says the line, does this line as the role of a user, do this line as the role as assistant. I can open this utils prompt. This one. So it has the default system prompt for the duo chat. And then it has a little bit more like, okay, so user. It tells that things is by the user or by the system or by the assistant. And this joins everything and then formats with input variables that are passed. So if you look over here, the input variables are options, and then you pass like conversation and everything downstream, and that will replace this. But the conversation itself is on entropic prompt, so this is not being added to the vertex AI prompt, but only to the entropic one. So let me find where this entropic templates. No. Completion? No. It's somewhere over here, but prompt. Where is prompt? Prompt type. Here. No. Yeah, here. So over here, for example, it goes over the history and it joins everything and it creates a truncated conversation and it creates like the chat that was previous and it appends. But this is only for entropic right now. Vertex just passes down the thing. If I can show here, the Vertex AI will just pass base prompt, and base prompt will then call this if the prompt version is identified, like if there is a custom prompt being passed. So for the Vertex, it's whatever they write will appear, right? For us, for the Vertex, there's some editing over the prompt. For entropic, there's some editing. Yeah.
Okay.
But we need to discuss, like, the community in general uses Jinja 2 style template, which is with like this,
All these
something, double curls, double curl brace, curly braces, like this. And it allows also sometimes for loops, like a lot more control. Jinja 2 is very powerful on templating. So we don't have that power. We're using just, okay, this goes, this predefined variables. Yeah, so just mentioning, I will create an issue for this later, but I just wanted to highlight that we'll need to discuss this, I think, sooner than later. We might not allow users to set up their own variables, but at least like the system variables, like the GitLab variables, they should be allowed to manage, like to pass directly.
I think we
Okay,
should probably stick to like the community or the most popular syntax.
Yeah, but the community is not to a chat. So if
That's true.
we wanna,
Yeah.
we might provide support for both. And I do think eventually we want to go into the community level. For now, for simplicity, I would prefer just to stick to whatever Duo Chat is doing.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. But if we decided it's a little bit easier than we thought to set up, then we go that way. I don't mind.
For the like I'm trying to imagine, like, for the time being, do we not think that it would be better to just fully override that logic in the context of agents and not do any prompt manipulation whatsoever?
But then, for example, the chat will have no history of the previous conversation if we don't do anything. If we don't inject anything, how will the prompt know about past conversations, right? How the agent know about the person. So we need to do some sort of messaging around, like we need to do some sort of manipulation, but we need to give control to the user on how we do this manipulation. Like we need to give them whether they want this, like sometimes we don't want the agent to have history. with just system prompt and with a question and no past knowledge. Sometimes you do want, because that's very useful. So we need to give this control to users. But I think I should create an issue, and then we should discuss this. We don't need to discuss this now.
Yeah. I think it's even like I think it will wind up being even more complicated than just handing users control over the prompt templating, because like I think we're gonna wind up needing to do things like perform some like get the semantic context of the question, and then like, for example, like decide whether we need to make a function call first or just forward it along to the like chosen LLM, stuff like that, right? So it's like, and then you have to think about all the interactions of like what happens if you do call a function, and like how do you parameterize that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I have a call in 4 minutes, so we need, if we go this, it needs to be a little bit quicker. Well, if you cannot join the call, I'm gonna go with Gosha over the MR. So if that's interesting for you, I'll explain the general context of AI agents and how does that relate to Do Chat. She's the reviewer for them. Here. That's what I had. Sorry.
Yeah, we can do the last bit async. I'm just trying to like get ahead of next things that we aren't tracking right now. I think like that's a good example of one of them, like prompt templating in general. I was also thinking about like there's so much velocity around like these LangChain projects, and if we all agree that we're gonna have to take like that we're gonna have to have some orchestration around like making decisions as to whether or not to do a function call, and like that we're specifically going to call Anthropic for that purpose, right? Regardless of like what the chosen LM provider backend is. I'm wondering if it would be good to have somebody kind of experiment with some of those APIs to see if they would be a good fit, because I think we could ship something a lot faster if we started to build an agent on top of LangChain versus hand rolling all of those like yeah, all LLM chaining stuff.
Yeah, I think we can do that after we have the API set up, because right now it doesn't really matter how fast we go. We don't have a way for users to use what we built. Like you have the chat within the GitLab itself, but that's not the use case of AI agents, right? So we either have to have the API in place or the embedded, and that is the requirement for us. It could be a LangChain compatibility layer. That could be something that we could use so that users could already consume within their setups, but it would be actually quite nice. But that's both of them are okay. Like we just need to give now. We have set up the storage and everything and the access, but we haven't given users any way to consume it, and that's problematic. As soon as we give away to use, then we're going to start receiving feedback, and then we know better where we should go and how we should focus on, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Doesn't make
Yeah,
sense. I don't know.
I guess I think there's two ways we could go with that. Like one is like, yeah, like exposing all of that richness to the user. But I was thinking as just like a first step, it's like, what if what if we developed an agent on top of LangChain, right? Where the agent config is an input into that somewhere in the pipeline, right? So it's like that would allow us to like benefit from all of their like tooling around function calling and stuff like that, right? But we don't necessarily have to expose it all to the end user. I'm just thinking we would have that running somewhere, and it would take the system prompt from the agent config. But yeah, I haven't played with it, so I don't know what is even possible. I'll see you in the next one.
See you soon, folks. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.